also the D3CLC would like to welcome Chief Garcia. Thank you for being here.
No, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Yes, so we want to know, as community leaders, how could we help you help the community? Build a bridge, we want to see some unity.
Can you go into your, because you're new, correct?
Yes, well, yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you got here?
Sure,
Okay,
sure. Actually, I'll try to make this quick, but actually I was born in San Juan, Puerto Rico, and we moved to San Jose when I was very young. And actually I went to school at St. Victor's. I went to the old Berryessa school. I went to St. Victor's after that. And so I'm from San Jose, and I've been on the department for 24 years. I've worked in all sorts of units. I've worked in narcotics enforcement. I worked on the SWAT team. Thank you. I worked in homicide. I was a night detective for a while. I'm a homicide investigator. Worked in community services. I was a special investigations vice and criminal intelligence commander. I was a captain in Central Division for a while. I was in Bureau of Investigations for a while. I was in administration for a while, and then I was the assistant chief.
Job.
I was the assistant chief for 3 years.
Yeah.
And then I was the acting chief in January, and then appointed permanent in March. So, although it's interesting, I was the assistant chief for 3 years, and so although the job title of police chief is new, I mean the work is not new.
Yeah.
I was very fortunate. As I was the assistant chief to be able to interact with the community and not be, normally speaking, assistant chiefs kind of run behind the scenes and run the day-to-day operations. But I was fortunate enough to work under Chief Escobar, who allowed me to go out in the community. So I was kind of a known commodity when the time came, which was very beneficial. So that is how I got here.
That's great. Yeah, that's great.
So now we can go back to how could we help you build stronger communities, and how do we help each other out?
Well, one of the things that we've been doing, one of the things that's been great, and we can do it on we're doing it kind of a macro level, but it'd be nice to do it on a micro level, is really right now we're working with PACT. And we've been working on these meetings that are called our beloved community meetings. I don't know if you've heard of those.
No.
And so, members of PACT.
What is PACT?
PACT is people acting in communities together.
Okay.
And it's they're a faith-based organization. It's a faith-based organization throughout the city. And so what they started, especially in light of the national issue with law enforcement, is building dialogue. And so we've been meeting with them on a quarterly basis with a broad range of individuals to discuss different topics. And, it really comes back down from, I had the opportunity to be at Major City Chiefs Conference in Washington, D.C., where Vice President Biden spoke to us at a time, and this was after the Ferguson issue that had occurred. And, he quoted Martin Luther King saying, and I won't get this completely right, but he says, men fear each other because men hate each other because they fear each other, and they fear each other because they don't know each other, and they don't know each other because they don't talk.
Right.
And really, when you think about the whole police-community relation part of it, is really just seeing each other as human beings and who we are, and not just suspect, victim. And seeing someone in the community and understanding and giving them a voice, and they can in turn see the police officer as, you're a father, you're a mother, you're a son, you're a daughter. You just coached your kids and put them to bed and worked, and now you're coming out to work midnights and kind of see through the uniform. And that's been really helping us a lot on a global perspective. From from more of a micro perspective, if communities were able to do that and offer opportunities for the community and the officer to interact, that would be very, very beneficial for us. Obviously being on our eyes, that's from a community perspective. Just so you know, my rationale, my philosophy, and what I've told my division captains really has been that the days of gauging a police department by its crime rate alone is over. If our crime rates drop, but our community trust drops as well, we've failed. That's not how we measure ourselves anymore. And so what I've told my division captains is you come up with ideas to enhance public safety, I challenge you, because this is somewhat new, really to put this as a scale. It's always been there, from a arbitrary component of always being out there in community policing, but really for every public safety or crime fighting technique my captains are employing, I want them to equally come up with something that enhances community trust. And so that's kind of the balance that I have. And so working together, we can't do it on our own, right? right? So as we work together and we find those opportunities and interact with the community, that's really big for us, because we feel that you can affect public safety, you can affect safety in your neighborhoods by the relationships that the police department can build with its community. And so those are some ways that you can help.
I forget what month it was, but you guys did a coffee with the cop at Roy's Station, and that was wonderful. There were about 50 people in uniform and about 10 suits who were higher-ups of some sort, and it was just really nice to be able to sit down and talk with somebody and get that human.
And were you there at Roy's?
Yes.
Yeah, it was fantastic, and then we did employ that as part of the seeing each other as human beings. And so we did it at Roy Station. It was a success, and we just recently did it 2 weeks ago at our Virgen de Guadalupe, where we had Spanish-speaking officers and other officers that were there in that community. Because here's the reality of it is a coffee with a cop works fantastic, but there's some areas in the city that the frustration with police is, you didn't respond to my burglary, what's going on? And then there's other areas of the city, which is a great city to work in, that the perspective's different. It's not you didn't respond to my burglary, it's I don't trust you.
Right.
I don't want to call you because I don't trust you. And although we need to interact with both, and so that's why it was important. On one hand, we're at Roy Station, which was more of the, I want to get to know you, and can you help me with this, or just talk. And then there was the interaction of Virgen de Guadalupe, where were people that just, quite frankly, as we walked in the congregations, we did it on a Sunday during Mass, and we were able to come in and celebrate with them at their Mass, and I was able to give some words towards the end of the Mass, and you could tell, a little bit as we walked in, like, okay, what's going on? When you saw like 20 police officers in uniform walking into our Virgen de Guadalupe, and so afterwards it was just great. It was a fantastic, and so we're going to be doing that throughout the city, because it's not nuclear physics.
Yeah.
It's really just gets down to the basics of just getting to know each other and really understanding that there's more to public safety than just catching the bad guy. And we really want to put out to our officers that, the mentality of we're soldiers, or the mentality that we're warriors, that is not what we're trying to convey. We're guardians. And although guardians have to keep the wolf away from the door at times, we can't mistake kindness for weakness. And so we're trying to convey that message and really trying to turn that corner so that our officers understand that they serve this community. So,
well, I'm in Hyde Park, and we had a Halloween block party, and so we called the police and asked if they could send somebody to judge our scarecrow contest. Because we said it was the first ever, and we said it was going to get heated. We were, of course, kidding about that, but we told whoever came out, I forget who it was, he was just perfect. We told him to ham it up, and so he came out and said that I misled him, that it was a donut eating contest, but whatever. But he took it. But it was a wonderful way to just have somebody show up and interact, and he took it seriously. I did not win, so I have an issue, but
so no one's more frustrated really with the lack of ability to do those things more than the officers themselves.
Yeah.
Obviously we want to get to a point when we get our staffing levels up. The first time someone sees a San Jose police officer cannot be in a moment of crisis.
Yeah.
And, we have to have those opportunities where officers are walking in a park and can play and pick a basketball game with someone, can play a little wiffle ball, can walk into a library, can go to a Little League game and just talk to the community. We need to do that more. So, but again, that all comes hand in hand to be able to grow the department, because that's what we want to do and that's what we want to be.
Well, since you mentioned the library,
she's
I manage the 3 branches inside District 3.
Okay.
And I've tried to get the word out with some of the captains, because I attend the mayor's gang task force meeting.
Okay.
We're welcoming the police officers to come in. We see them sometimes where they're sitting out in the parking area and they're on their computers or taking a break. We try to invite them in. We have, if you want coffee, if you want snacks, just to get them familiar with our staff. The other is we have the summer reading challenge coming this summer, and we're offering. I believe the police have the safety workshop for the families, and we register for them to come to our different branches. But I would like for a police car to come and let the kids get inside and maybe not play with all the gadgets, but at least see
Put that gun
inside.
away.
Yeah, nothing like that. But it's more of we're trying to figure out ways because we have to call you all a lot of times, but we don't want it to be that you again kind of where you only calling us when you want something. We want to say we're all city workers. We want to have somewhat of like a relationship with you all. Yes, and we're trying to figure out how to get that done.
Well, I would say what we need to start I empower my captain, my division captain. Are you aware of your captain?
No, I don't know how you're organized.
Okay, so the Foothill Division, right, which is, from basically we were looking at it this morning. That captain's going to be Captain Michael Kim. That's one of our divisions. Our Central Division, which is basically downtown all the way to Alviso, is Captain Dave Tyndall. Okay, so he covers downtown all the way to Alviso and pretty much from 880 to 680. That 680 would be the most eastern part. And then we have our Southern Division, which is
Schroeder?
The Blossom Schroeder, yes, Captain Schroeder,
Yeah.
which is our Blossom Valley area. From there, and it covers all the way towards really almost into Los Gatos and Almaden. And then we have our Western Division that covers some parts of south of 280 downtown, and then the west side of San Jose.
Okay.
And
So that's
Western.
4 divisions?
4 divisions.
Yes. And it covers all, when you talked about your background, rotating through all those departments, each division has each of those departments, like vice and...
No. We're a very interesting organization in that we're the 10th largest city in the country, and we're a major police department. We're very centralized.
Okay.
Where a lot of other agencies have those units in each of those divisions.
Yeah.
We're centralized with all those divisions, and that's done for a purpose. But we do that. Where those units are used throughout all the divisions. But what I will say is, as you have me here, to have your division captain come and have these conversations, because I want to empower my division captains to be the mini chiefs of police for their division. So if when there are issues you're talking about, you want officers at the library, those are things that your captain can figure out and try to get together and work with you on, because they know that I'm holding them accountable for that. I'm simply not holding them accountable for the prostitution or the graffiti or the robberies or the crimes. Yes, they're being held accountable for those, okay, and trying to keep the city safe, but they're also held accountable to be able to do those things.
Okay. Then I don't know if I need to prod him a little bit more. I've only spoken with Captain Bustillo.
Bustillos?
Yes, he's the only one that I've actually talked to. And he seemed welcoming. He's usually watching when we have a call. He tells me at the next meeting that he noticed that we had a few calls. So I know he's paying attention. I don't want it to feel, because our staff sometimes feels like, we have to call him again, and like we're being a hassle to you all. And that's not what we're intending on, but it is things that we need help with. So it's more of, we want the police officers to feel welcome. We know we're going to have to call you all.
Right.
And we don't want it to be that you all just show up when we have a call and then you're like, okay, we're going now. So it's just, I will continue to try and see what the captains have to say.
Yeah.
Would something that she's requesting be something along the lines of the crime prevention folks that Kim Gaddis used to be in charge of? Oh, she is still there?
She's still there.
Oh.
Actually, Kim just retired. She just retired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You told me at UNSC myself.
Yeah, she just retired a few weeks
So
ago.
who was her replacement?
We're working on filling that.
Just contact us.
So right now I think it's kind of rotating. But yes, your captain is the one that gives you those ties to all those resources.
Okay.
To be able to use the crime prevention specialist to come out to events, those type of things.
So would it be best to contact them directly or go through an officer or a captain? Or...
You could do either. You can contact your crime prevention specialist directly, or you can email your captain.
Mm-hmm.
That's I would always start with either directly to the specialized unit, or really working through your captain to get a response from him.
Okay, and Nini's still there?
Minnie Lee?
Oh, yeah, Minnie.
Yes, Minnie Lee. Minnie Lee's still there.
They've actually come to some of our branches and started providing training for our staff.
That's fantastic. That's You know, that's part of it. It's interesting because we have so many facets of law enforcement, and they're non-sworn, but that is part of our community police relations. They're part of our family. So although they're not sworn members, to be able to have those positive interactions are huge for us.
Are captains also in charge of the community service officers?
The captains are in charge of community service officers in their divisions. Yes.
Yeah.
Now, captain, again, those four areas that I explained to you. You know, when it's your District 3, I mean, those 4 areas, I mean, those captains, those are the little mini chiefs of those areas. So they would control all the staffing that would occur in their areas.
So Esther Mota, is it Mota or Mota?
Mota?
She's the in charge of crime prevention.
Yes, she's in charge of the community of the crime prevention specialists.
Okay.
She's one sharp cookie, too.
She is fantastic. I mean, she's been with the city for years and working with the Mayor's Gang Prevention Task Force. I remember working with Esther when I was a lieutenant in the Community Services Division. So to get Esther to come over to PD has just been amazing. It's really, really been great for us.
Sharp, yeah.
She is sharp.
Our neighborhood has called you guys out for 2 reasons. One is mental health issues, and the other is stealing mail, U.S. mail. So on the mental health issues, is there anything we can do other than wring our hands and hope that there's some better solution than status quo? I mean, you know, as far as a individual who's not capable of functioning any longer, a neighbor is not capable of functioning any longer. Is there any kind of resources we should be aware of, or somebody else we should be calling, or something we can be putting into motion in advance rather than in a crisis?
Do you feel they're dangerous?
Yeah, I mean, well, yes.
You know, what I was going to ask, because it's related, is because I live in the Hensley, so not so far away.
Hensley?
Are these kind of what I would call annoyance issues? Which is, I don't necessarily feel like I'm in danger of any kind, but obviously there's a huge homeless problem.
Mm-hmm.
And related, so that's a question I also have: is what can we realistically expect the police to do? I mean, if obviously there's a clear and present danger, that's a different issue. If someone's unconscious,
Right.
that's different.
In our situation, it's chase people down the street, yells at them. I mean, you know, bangs on doors, yells at them.
That's
So
a little
it's a
more
very
serious.
verbally.
Yeah.
But it's clear to everybody that this is a person not in possession of their
Yeah.
faculties. You know, and it's a person who lives in the neighborhood. So, whatever. But we kind of just don't know what the right thing to do is, other than call you guys, and then usually you guys come out and have some conversation and try and diffuse the situation. But I don't know. What more?
Yeah, you know, it's one of those things where, you report it to 911 in those type of instances.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that we're doing as a department is we're going to mandatorily train every member of the department to be trained in CIT, which is our critical incident training, which is what deals with mentally handicapped individuals. So we're training the entire department to do that because that goes with our de-escalation techniques that we want to do.
Yeah.
We're getting ahead of the curve on a lot of things. We want to do things before we're told to do things.
Is there any de-escalation we should be doing? Is there any training that neighbors can do to help?
You know, I can't speak to that. We don't offer
Yeah.
that training. I know
Yeah.
the county has some resources with mental health resources that we're actually looking into to try to help us out a little bit as well. I would never, ask for someone to put themselves in harm's way.
Oh, yeah, we wouldn't.
And
but-
so I can't speak to
Yeah.
type of training for residents to have. But if you feel in danger, you call us, and we want to deal with everything at the lowest common denominator.
Yeah.
Where there's a reality of it is that dealing with the mentally handicapped, a lot of times does tend to lead into force a lot of times, which is one of the reasons why we're trying to train all of our officers in how to deal with it.
That's
And so it goes up, again, part of our de-escalation techniques and trying to do a lot without being told to do it, quite frankly, because we're operating in a time of non-crisis. And when I say that is we have a great rapport with our community. But that doesn't mean we can sit on our hands and do nothing. We need to think of ways to better our relationships. And one of those is with the de-escalation, with training all of our officers in CIT so that we don't have a problem before one arises.
Right.
In dealing with the homeless situation, one of the things we really have to differentiate between what a crime is and being homeless. And I've said this many times, and I've said this, we're starting, the mindset is starting to shift from whenever, I'll be honest, when I was in downtown, if someone saw a homeless person in front of the business, the first call they'd make is the police. We had to really try to educate people that being homeless in it by itself is not a crime. And so we'll deal with the criminal issues that can come about from that. But homelessness by itself, which we do have a lot of homeless in downtown that have mental disabilities as well, that we're affected by. So it is, I can't tell you there's an answer to it. I know that housing has been working very hard. I know the mayor is really trying to come up with some initiatives to try to fix the situation. I know the Diocese of San Jose has been trying to come up with different things to do, but it is going to be an all hands on deck type of approach to deal with it.
Well, so I guess a related issue, and this is a very specific issue, but is feedings in St. James Park. And there's a new homeless housing development going in for sort of transitional housing on North 2nd Street, about a block away from St. James Park. And the developers, it's called the PATH, they're a nonprofit, have been very clear that the feedings in St. James Park are not going to help the situation at all. But there's a lot of anecdotal information is that the police will not enforce the no feeding laws. And one member of a community was told by a police officer, we're just not going to do it. And so we're really concerned about developing homeless services near St. James Park while at the same time doing something that the nonprofit group says, don't do this. You're not helping these people by having these feedings. So, it's realistically, we're told by, police officers, not the police department, that it's bad PR for us to enforce these rules. So meanwhile, the feedings go on all the time.
Who's doing the feedings? Is it random?
Nonprofit. No, it's usually churches from Los Gatos.
So,
and just another related issue, and again, what I'm asking for is, I guess, what's realistic to expect? A related issue, and I would think this is an issue all over the city, are liquor stores that serve to homeless individuals. So we've got one in particular that's quite bad at this and allowing loitering. And I'm curious, do you interface at all with alcohol beverage control? Because I wrote them a letter a long time ago, the state, about this situation, no response. I called them about 3 months later, no call, no return calls, nothing. And so do you guys at all interface with them in terms of verifying, there's been a lot of incidents? We had the guy who leads the Salvation Army in our neighborhood, a beer was thrown at him, and they slashed his tires. Do you guys interface? These are kind of things like, what can we do about these liquor stores, especially because you can't be there to witness what's going on all the time. And does alcohol beverage control listen to what you guys have to say?
Yes, they do. They do. There's a few issues. The ABC laws, they're not city controlled; they're state controlled.
Right.
And so we can't force ABC to put limitations on something that's got their ABC license. There are laws on the books. You can't sell to obviously intoxicated individuals. There aren't any laws on the books that I know of that you can't sell to someone who's homeless. And so
that's true. That's true. Yeah.
But that's not to say that if there's a liquor store that's causing a lot of nuisance issues, that we can't take the issues that are there, the calls for service, the times that we respond, and the level of crime that occurs there, that ABC can't. There are times, as has happened in nightclubs, that ABC can revoke their ABC license.
Okay.
It's not an easy task, but it's something that can be done.
Okay.
So what I say, when you have problem liquor stores, to call our vice unit and tell them what the situation is. Our vice unit and our vice admin unit, I mean, we've had to reduce our staffing quite a bit, but we still have a vice administrative unit that they do more damage to the unprofessional business owners with the pen, with email and typing up memos than officers in uniform can do, because that's really when the work gets done.
So you mean more just like warning letters or things? When you're saying,
there's a few things that they can do. I mean, warning letters. There can be working with the ABC for warning letters. Working with the ABC if there's enough on this particular property to show a pattern of ABC violations.
Yeah.
Each liquor store, each place that sells alcohol has their ABC, regulations, what they can and can't do.
Right.
And so if there is a problem liquor store, our vice unit would look into it to see, okay, is the problem there big enough for the ABC to take action? So there are things you can do. I don't want you to think that there's a problem liquor store, there's nothing we can do about it, because you can.
Okay.
And then the other thing is, a lot of times, we can have our vice unit and people go talk to the ownership and tell them that you're on the radar. Nobody
I think that
wants,
could be quite effective.
nobody wants their livelihood affected.
Yeah.
And to the extent that if no one's spoken to them and they're offered, but if the minute my vice sergeant goes to talk to the owner of a liquor store to tell him you're starting to get on the radar, and I can guarantee you nobody who has an ABC license wants the San Jose Police or the police department that they're in writing a letter of stating that the business is acting in a way that's causing the community to suffer, calls for service to increase, and that they're operating unprofessionally.
And is that just if I call the general non-emergency line, like 311, they patch me
No,
through the Vice?
if you go onto our website,
Okay.
there's a number for Vice.
Okay.
There's a number for Vice.
And the feedings? The feedings issue?
Okay, so back to the feedings. Okay, so that's a great point, and I have here's I love what you said about being realistic. What I want is for my officers to be out there and tell the people that are feeding and let them know that they're not supposed to be feeding there.
Okay.
And have the officers visible to tell them that they're violating the law. They're not
Yeah.
supposed to be feeding there. I'm not. I don't like to say something that's not going to happen. I don't want to see. The last thing I want to see, and I'll be honest with you, the last thing I want to see is a San Jose officer giving someone a ticket because they're giving someone who's hungry food.
Yeah.
I guess it's part of just what. I guess we all have our how we were brought up and our beliefs and faiths, but I don't like the sight of a San Jose officer citing a Good Samaritan for giving someone food that's hungry.
And that's also because it's a health issue.
But the other issue is also because it's a health issue
Yeah.
that they've had. But that's really the overlying philosophy. However, that's not to say that, especially that we've spoken to our downtown captains, that they're not to speak to these individual companies and or the places they're doing it, whether it's the churches or it's individuals. I know that there were some high school kids.
I've seen that too.
I've seen I thought Presentation High School had these kids think they're doing well, doing a service project, and the next thing you know, they're at St. James Park feeding the hungry. And so it's really, I'm not saying we would never go there. I'm just saying I really want that to be our last resort. I really want it to be an educational component to it, and trying to find an alternative place to go.
Well, is that something that PATH should take the lead on?
PATH said no, that's not their job.
Yeah.
So I emailed with one of the Perales' aides, and they said, yeah, they're concerned about this problem too, because especially if they're developing this new homeless housing, the worst thing that could happen is to have the feedings go on. So PATH has clearly said we want it to stop completely. So it would seem like if we're trying to do something new with homeless, which I think is a good thing, and I think overall we're going in the right direction, some things have to change, but we need the police's cooperation.
No, and I understand. I think there could be a plan that we can do that we can meet halfway at least. I'm gonna write this down. Where it's a combination of education and being present and really continue to send that message out there, and then an alternative site. Somewhere there's got to be somewhere alternative.
Yeah, and that
we
legit.
have.
Yeah.
And the excuse that I've heard, because when I was a downtown captain, I personally met with one of the individuals that was actually organizing some of the feedings. And one of the things that I've heard from people is that because our homeless population they have mental illness, they only know one place.
Yeah.
So you can say to our homeless population that we're feeding at the Salvation Army, and you're still going to get people that are just going to show up to St. James Park because that's all they know. And so that's the quandary that we find ourselves in. But we need to try.
Yeah.
We need to try to do that. So let me.
Do you know if anybody has ever contacted the churches to let them know they can use an alternative site?
Yeah, and my understanding is they're kind of belligerent. They're like, we're doing God's work. Deal with it. So, they don't really care about the neighborhoods and what happens at, and you can't really use the park. Well, I mean, huge lines.
More than I believe 20 people or 10 people, you need a permit.
That's not, there's not even close to that. It goes on all the time. What I'm looking for is the person who I've been emailing, and I don't have it with me, but I'll look at it later. But a woman from his office said we've got to do something different. So I'm going to write her back, because I hadn't written her back yet, but I'll just say we kind of spoke, and maybe at some point we can work with downtown, the police officers who are familiar with James Park to kind of strategize, okay, can we try to do something
Yes,
different?
and we have
Okay.
walking beats downtown, and again, I wrote it down. I'll talk to the captain.
I appreciate that.
You know, and then you.
Okay, all right.
If I don't, you have my email.
Yes,
Yes.
Have you all, I know I'm new to this community.
Thank you very much.
But have you all looked at getting like the city council or the city government to find ways to work with the nonprofits that's willing to work with them? Because I know in some cities, I'll give you an example, in Denver, I was just there for a public library conference. They have at their airport, it's you drop change or money in these stations that they have, and they then funnel that money back to certain organizations. So it's ways of creating like incentives to say if your organization is willing to work with the city or whatever organization and get them to do the things that you want them to do by offering them certain.
Or centralize things, or,
Yes.
yeah, and I think, so that's what you've
That's a
heard
good
too, is
idea.
these churches are pretty belligerent. Yeah.
Doing
So,
the Lord's work.
yeah, so,
Because First Methodist here on Fifth Street will take all of those people, they got food facilities, they could do it all over there, 2 blocks away.
yeah.
And they can't, for some reason, won't do that.
But it's ways, then it's, you're taking the organizations that's willing to work with the city or if it, like a specific department, and then steer them away by offering them the resources or resource help to pull those people into their location instead of
Right.
putting them in the park.
And I think if we could just get it organized instead of, it's very ad hoc right now. And I understand, like you're saying, I understand these are people in need, and I'm not saying they don't deserve food. I'm just saying it's not, the way it's doing right now, it's not working.
No, and I understand that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's such a a predicament that we find ourselves in. Because I understand what you're saying, and still the residents of that community don't expect to be there, and the issues that causes.
Yeah, yeah.
So we just need to come up with a plan, and I've heard that before. I need to check in with my captain because I know I've had him. He was supposed to have meetings with the Downtown Business Association. Yeah, about the issues that were going around the park and the issues. I just need to follow up with him. He may have a plan.
And I'll follow up with Peralez. I forget what the name of the woman was, but she doesn't come to this meeting, but someone that they put me in touch
Okay.
with. So thanks a lot. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
no, I'll definitely follow up on that.
yeah.
Then are there like his, his theft of, mail, too minor a thing to call you guys about? I know it's a federal law, I would like to help triage your services, and I'm not sure that, that somebody rifling through a mailbox looking for a check or whatever is worth a call unless.
Well,
it's
it's always worth the call. And one of the things I would say, we've actually been able to apprehend quite a few, package thefts. Has been such a big deal, right?
Yeah.
And, I mean, right now is not the season, but as the holidays
Yeah,
come up,
yeah,
that's a
that
huge,
too. Yeah.
huge spike in
Yeah.
there. But people have called us on it, and we've been able to post videos from people's cameras and that they have, and we've been able to apprehend quite a few because of that.
Perfect.
So if we don't, what I will always say is, we may not be able to respond to something that we deem as minor.
Yeah.
But the information is huge, because if we don't know what they're occurring, then we can't line up our resources to try to help that or to know or get the information out at least to an officer who's out there. As I've always said, it doesn't matter what kind of theft you're talking about, whether it's mail theft,
Yeah.
package theft, burglary. 100 different crimes of that type are not committed by 100 different people. They're committed by a handful of individuals, and so we're able to get the information and arrest one person for that. We probably end up clearing up a dozen, if not more, of those type of cases. So it's really important to call us and let us know.
Is there a plan to have a 311 number accessible from cell phones?
I know our system is going through a revamp right now, and that may be part of it, but I don't know what the status of that is.
Because a lot of us don't even have landlines anymore, and so if we want to call somebody,
So there actually is, to answer your question, there is a landline number, 4311, And it's
Yeah,
the
but it's not.
277 8900.
I was gonna say, but it's not 3 digits. 2 of them repeating, all of them odd.
I thought that was the 911 number.
No, I have it as
The 277-8900?
It's
Yeah, that's what I have.
277-8911 is the cell number,
Okay,
but
I can actually
but I
put
think
that
you
in my
can.
phone.
You mean that's the emergency
I mean,
cell
if
number?
my phone
Yes,
like-
Okay.
277-8911.
Yeah, and 8900 is just the normal.
And 8900 is just
The
the
normal,
normal.
okay. That's a good- I never thought about that.
Like, I know we have an issue with the library, the East Carnegie Library, where we have a lot of transients that are in the back. At one point, they were in the dumpster area, and they just kind of keep returning. And it's not just that they're homeless; it's that they're actually using drugs, and among other things. So that was one of the concerns that you had for your location.
Yes, and that was why we were trying to have something with the officers so they would be aware, because we get some that are frequent. We try to approach them as sensitive as it may be. We do get where it's the pushback from some of them, like, why are you in my face? And then them trying to lunge at some of the staff. And this is during the day. And they're blocking the emergency exit, which the library did. We gated the actual dumpster and the electrical closet downstairs, because even after we did that, we had people that figured out how to jimmy open. It was just that bad. They were seriously jimmying it open and still going down there and doing drugs and everything. But we've had the staff out there going out there and talking to them, where now we notice that they will come and stay overnight. So we're not there, but the community is seeing this. And we're wondering what else it is that we can do. The officers, when they come out, they handle the situations, they ask the people to move on. But it's more of a concern, I think, for the community, where they're noticing the drugs and some of the behaviors of the people. And that's more of where the concern is coming from. And they're actually building little shelters. We have right off of East Santa Clara. It's gated, but we're finding that people are finding ways to try to build little huts over there, and then even up on the steps of the library. When we come in the morning, we have to remove a lot of things most of the time. And we're not sure what else to do except for keep calling you all. So do you have like a solution, or is it just that the community should continue overnight watching and then calling you all?
Well, there's one thing that we have that's called SEPTED. And SEPTED is crime prevention through environmental design. And most of our crime prevention specialists are familiar with it. And so what they can do is come out to businesses and see what is it about the design of the area gives it makes it a safe haven for whatever activities occurring. A business may call us and say they're afraid of safety, and they'll go out there and say, okay, well, these bushes are too high. You need to cut the bushes. You need more lighting. You need to take things off. So they're able to do that now. That is something, again, that if you were to, like something that your captain would be able to say, especially if you say, I spoke to Chief Garcia, and, he mentioned if someone can do a SEPTED review at the library, because this is the issue we have, I'd love to hear how we can help ourselves. Because that's a tool that we have that is very, very valuable.
Crime prevention actually goes out and does those.
The SEPTED crime prevention, yes.
Is there any other questions?
No, we should give him the red card so he can get out of here.
Yeah.
When somebody has overstayed their welcome. But this is to do you a favor.
Yes.
I overstayed my welcome?
Yeah.
No, it's time. I wanted to be so perfect for you.
This is to release you.
So I wanted to just to add on to this before we close out. So I'm on the board of directors for Crime Stoppers, and how do you feel about Crime Stoppers and the community? Do you encourage? Do you like how it works, or we're changing over the system?
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's absolutely fantastic. I know the work that obviously Jason Pierce. The work that we do with Crime Stoppers is great. It really is. We need to keep it going. We need to help the fundraising effort for it. And so whatever we can do to help, whatever I can do to help through Jason, let me know, because it's invaluable for us. We've used it on many cases, very high-profile cases.
And also the software has been changed up to P3, which is there's now a app that you can download on your Android, or I think it's just Android for now, but it's called P3 Tips, and Silicon Valley Crime Stoppers is on there. So if anybody has an anonymous tip that they want to enter, they can actually download that and submit the anonymous tip, which is helpful through the ambulance. Yeah, thank you for being here. And
Well, it's my pleasure. If you
Yes,
want me
thank you
back,
so
I'd love to
much.
come back.
Absolutely.
I get a lot out of. I mean, I know I have to at times I have to speak to 1,000 people, but I really enjoy these meetings. I really. I mean, when I talk about my officers getting to know their community, I don't want to seem that I'm out of touch from just speaking to grassroots organizations and groups. It's really a pleasure to be here because to me, this is we're San Jose. We're a huge city, but this is what separates us from most is we have these groups. So feel free to call on me to come back. I'd love to. And,
absolutely.
Great.
hopefully we
So
can
did you run out of cards? Because I can always send your email.
Yeah, please send my email. I ran out of cards, but if you could send my email out, and again, I will always. You send me something, I'll tell you exactly what's going to happen. You send me something, go, hey, thanks for your concern. I'm gonna, and then I'm gonna CC the captain and go, hey, keep me updated as to how this goes. And then the reality is, they get the hint. I mean, when I was a captain, this is how I thought when I was a captain. If someone from my division, and I was in downtown, I had the central division, and I took pride in it. And my motto was, if I've met with a certain community group, now I can't do anything if I haven't met with someone, but if it's from a community group that I know, if the chief is telling me to do something on behalf of a community group that I've reached out to, then I'm not doing my job. That is truly how I thought, and that's truly how I want my captains to be able to be at that level for you. So I really would, really would make sure that you guys do that and put them to work because they got a job to do. And their job is to answer to the concerns of this area. So, and they do a fantastic job. They really do. But that's the philosophy we got.
Yeah.
All right.
Great.
Thanks a lot for your
Thank you.
time. Yeah.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Enjoy the rest of your meeting. It took a lot not to ask for some of that yummy food too, but that smells delicious. No, I have to go. I got my son's waiting for me, but it did smell the entire time. I'm going, okay, my stomach's gonna growl at a certain point here. Okay, have a great night.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
There's extras. Does anybody want to take the food?